I never thought I'd be the kind of person who could betray someone who loved me so completely. For years, I thought my marriage with Tom was everything I could want: safe, stable, and steady. Tom was a good man in every sense: kind, patient, funny in his understated way, and unwaveringly loyal. He remembered birthdays, anniversaries, even the tiny things I'd mentioned in passing months ago. He wasn't flashy or exciting, but he made me feel secure, cared for, and seen. I should have been satisfied. I should have been grateful every day for what I had. But something in me shifted slowly, almost imperceptibly, until it became this gnawing itch I couldn't ignore. It started with my job. I worked at a medium-sized marketing firm, and it was the kind of environment where social interactions bled into personal ones. Everyone was young enough to crave camaraderie, but old enough to pretend professionalism mattered. That's how I met Lucas. He was new to the team and instantly charismatic in a way I found hard to resist. Not in a romantic sense at first, just magnetic. He laughed easily, listened well, and seemed to notice things about people that most of us overlooked. He made work feel alive in a way that Tom's quiet, comfortable love hadn't. I kept telling myself it was harmless. He was just a coworker, a friend. We started texting casually. Project updates, funny memes, nothing significant at first. But I realized over time that I looked forward to his messages more than I should. They were small sparks in a life that felt increasingly mundane. Tom loved me, but he wasn't someone who thrilled me with surprises or spontaneous adventures. He loved predictability, routine, the kind of life I'd once longed for. And for a while, that was enough. But when I talked to Lucas, I felt unpredictable, desired, alive. The texts became longer, more personal. He'd ask about my weekend, my family, my moods. I'd find myself telling him things I didn't tell Tom: the small frustrations, the fleeting insecurities, the dreams I'd long stopped voicing. It felt exhilarating to confide in someone without the weight of responsibility, without the constant knowledge that your life is intertwined with theirs in ways that make mistakes permanent. Lucas listened. He cared. I convinced myself it wasn't wrong because it was just words, just messages, just a friendship. But it wasn't. I could feel the line shifting, stretching, bending. I found excuses to linger in the office after hours, catching up on emails, when really I wanted to stay near him, just in case there was a moment to talk, a chance to laugh, a way to feel seen. When he suggested grabbing coffee after work one evening, I hesitated only briefly before saying yes. My heart raced as I left the office, pretending my excitement was innocent curiosity. And when we talked over cappuccinos, sharing jokes and anecdotes, I felt a thrill I hadn't felt in years. I felt young, noticed, important. I felt like myself again. But selfishly, I also felt like I was slipping away from the life I'd promised to honor. Tom noticed. He always notices. He's a quiet observer, the kind of man who reads you like an open book without ever seeming intrusive. He asked a few questions about my coworker, casually, almost innocently. "So, Lucas?" His voice was calm, unassuming, but there was a weight beneath it, a careful probing. I laughed, brushed it off. "Just a friend, Tom." Really, that's all 3 words. Just a friend. It became my mantra, my shield, my defense. I repeated it to him enough times that I began to believe it myself, or at least pretend I did. The slip came slowly. One evening, after a particularly long week, Lucas suggested dinner at a small bistro near our office. I told Tom I had a work thing, a client meeting I hadn't mentioned. He didn't press. He trusted me. I could see the disappointment in his eyes, but I twisted it into justification. He would understand eventually. He loved me. He trusted me. And that trust, I thought, was unbreakable. Dinner with Lucas was nothing overtly scandalous. We talked, we laughed, we shared small confessions. But there was a tension in my chest, a thrill in my stomach that I hadn't felt with Tom in years. Driving home, I felt guilt gnawing at the edges, but I swallowed it. I told myself it was harmless, temporary, a small indulgence. The danger was in imagination, not action. But imagination has its way of taking over entirely when left unchecked. The next few months were a delicate dance. I started crafting lies, small ones at first, staying late at the office, working on reports, volunteering for projects I had no intention of completing. Each time, Tom asked less and I avoided more. The texts with Lucas became flirtatious. He made observations that were intimate, and I reciprocated. I rationalized every message, every joke, every lingering look as innocuous. It was a friendship. That's all it was. Until it wasn't. It escalated on a Thursday evening. I stayed late to finish a client presentation, and Lucas suggested a drink nearby. One thing led to another. Casual touches, laughter, a brush of the hand that lingered longer than necessary. I didn't stop it. I didn't think of Tom. I was caught up in the intoxication of being wanted outside my marriage, the dizzying pleasure of secrecy. The moment I stepped back into my car, I felt the twin sensations of euphoria and dread, joy at my own audacity, fear at what I was doing. Tom noticed. I could see it the moment I walked in the door. He didn't say anything at first. He never does when he's gathering his thoughts. But the tension in the air was palpable. He asked if I'd had a long day, and I lied smoothly. Yes, lots of work. I'm exhausted. He nodded, eyes narrowing slightly, and retreated to the living room. That was the first night I realized he knew more than I thought. He wasn't blind. He wasn't naive. But he stayed silent, giving me the illusion of trust, and I, in my arrogance, continued. Weeks passed. I became more brazen, thinking I could control it. Lucas's presence became addictive. Our lunches stretched longer, our texts grew more intimate. And at night, I felt a constant hum of anxiety that I masked with excuses and smiles. Tom's eyes were always on me. He asked fewer questions, but his quiet observations became sharper. There were moments, small ones, where I'd catch him watching me, his expression unreadable. I wanted to confess, to stop, but I couldn't. The thrill was too consuming. The confrontation came on a night like any other. I had been out late, saying I was finishing work, but in reality, I had been with Lucas. Tom was waiting for me when I returned. The living room was dark, and the house smelled faintly of dinner I hadn't eaten. He didn't yell. He didn't storm. He sat in the chair where he often read after work, hands clasped together, watching me. I know, he said simply. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Know what? I asked, my voice brittle. Everything, he said. Lucas. The dinners, the texts, the lies. I've known for a while. I froze. I wanted to run, to make excuses, to laugh it off. But his calmness was terrifying. It's not what it looks like, I stammered. It's exactly what it looks like, he said, his voice steady but cold. You lied to me. Repeatedly. You told me he was just a friend, and you knew I trusted you. The weight of it crushed me. Every rationalization, every excuse I had whispered to myself fell apart. I didn't mean to hurt you, I said, tears forming. You did, he said simply. You didn't just hurt me. You broke the foundation of everything we built, and I can't stay in a marriage where trust has been eroded like this. The next days were a haze of paperwork, silent meals, and empty rooms. Tom moved out quietly, taking his things, leaving behind an emptiness that was almost physical. I called Lucas, desperate, ashamed, and he was gone. He had never wanted more than the excitement. When it became real, when consequences surfaced, he disappeared without a backward glance. Weeks turned into months. I was alone. Friends whispered, family questioned. Everywhere I turned, the consequences of my choices stared back at me. Meanwhile, Tom thrived. I saw him months later, smiling genuinely, lighter somehow, with someone else. He laughed easily again, the way I had long stopped seeing him laugh at me. He was free. He had moved on. I hadn't. The lessons are bitter and clear. I asked for excitement outside my marriage. I lied to the one person who loved me without hesitation. I thought I could manage the thrill without consequence. I was wrong. The truth is unforgiving, and the aftermath is something I carry every day. I destroyed the life I had, and in doing so, I lost everything I truly valued. Tom's love was unconditional, patient, enduring. I traded it for temporary illusions and petty thrills. Now, all I have are memories and regrets, and a lesson that trust, once broken, is impossible to reclaim.